Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Certainly some exciting things that have transpired this week. We'll spend some time in the broadcast, of course, talking about that epic battle in volleyball last night in Tully Gym. But before we get into all that, let's kind of introduce the crew today. I've got three on board today. We've got Jared out doing whatever Jared does when he's not doing this, and I forget the
Taking
deal.
pictures somewhere.
Taking photos of himself trying to walk down the sidewalk. I
Well,
don't know.
I think today's absence is due to it being Katie's birthday.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah, I think that may be something creating some of the absences later in the evening. I'm not sure it is at this point in the day, but I don't know. He's up to something as he almost always is.
that's for sure. He is always up to something, and I think I saw that where he was had that going on. I think Daryl had numerous appointments going on today with
Yeah,
stuff, but she uses Saturday. I think is the catch up day the closer she gets to the wedding,
yeah.
which is fine. We miss her, but I was kind of hoping to get some of Jared's ideas and comments about softball yesterday that they played in. But we got Case in here with us, and Case, you got stuff going on today too, but you were able to join us for the broadcast and get the article up today. So how are
Hey,
you, sir?
by the skin of my teeth on the article, it overslept a little bit. It was a little cloudy this morning. Uh, Usually use the sun, and maybe it's just because I'm not accounting for how late in the year it's getting. But usually use the sun as kind of a natural alarm on the weekends. And woke up earlier, checked my watch. It was like 6:15. I was, okay, don't need to get up yet. And then a little bit later, I wake up and I was like, well, it's still kind of gray outside. Let's just see what time it was. It was 8:50. Like, oh, huh.
Oh,
So drug myself out of bed, started making some coffee, and got to it.
there you are.
Yeah.
And I've got to, I guess, take my phone into Verizon or wherever and figure out what's going on with this thing because 3 weeks ago I had to set it for a Saturday early call. So I did. And after it went off, I erased it, the alarm part. So I thought. For the last 3 Saturdays, though, it's been going off at 5:27 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I go back in and, okay, I turned it off. It's not going to go off again. But the phone has a mind of its own, gentlemen. It still insists on going off at 5:27 on Saturday morning, and it does not make me a happy camper.
No.
Because Saturday is one of the days I get to rest in. But anyway, and that was the highlight of my week. You know, I can see we got a lot of good things to talk about today and things to go into. Let's go ahead, I think, maybe, and just go ahead and get them out of the way a little bit since they're actually playing today. But it's been a while since they've played, and that would be our women's soccer squad, which is,
Hmm.
yeah, they're in conference play. They went through just an unbelievably tough gauntlet in their last couple out, having to go up against. I don't know. Are they the best two teams in the league? I would have to say they are in North Carolina and Duke. And others may argue that, but certainly going to have to play in both of their spots. And, back to back. Whew. Who wrote that prescription case? Damn.
I probably a travel partner situation. It wouldn't make a ton of sense for Louisville to go down to it. They draw North Carolina and Duke both on the road. Sometimes they draw Wake and or NC State on the road. Usually those games end up happening at the same time, so that you don't have a team going down there, coming back, going down there again. But yeah, it's tough luck to have to play those two teams on the road, and ultimately lose by a combined score of 8-1, which wouldn't have surprised me if you told me that at the beginning of the year, but would have hoped for a little bit more. But
Hope is
given the
a
recent run
dangerous
of
thing.
given the recent run of form, wouldn't have hoped too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the classic Michael Scott analogy of The Office, the TV show that was so popular for years, where he starts out sprinting down the sidewalk when they do a charity run, and at the end he's limping toward the finish, and he's being carried by Jim and Pam to the finish line. Anyway, yeah, boy, it's just been the brutality of the ACC as it was put, and the slate that the Cards are going up against. It just hadn't done them any favors at all. Uh, they've had a nice extended break lately, but the last time they had an extended break like that, Jeff, they came out and got thumped.
Yeah, and it's I don't, we talked about how much the break can help rejuvenate. Obviously, taking that break and work on things that they found they need to work on, and also kind of take you out of form a little bit, so that when you come back, you're kind of maybe not at your top form.
That's okay. They need to get out of this form.
Well, okay, but ostensibly it puts you in a worse one. But I don't know. It's hard to say. It's an extended version of icing the kicker or something like that, or icing the server in volleyball. But more extended form of that when you have a long break between games. So yeah, I don't. I'm. I think the lesson here maybe don't hope. That's not great, but it's not exactly the joy and excitement. But
I'll reserve my lessons for
yeah,
the post-mortem on the
yeah,
season.
yeah.
Well, post-mortem may not be a bad terminology here.
Yeah. I keep telling myself though that we've already done better than last year, right?
That's true.
So
I mean,
yeah,
the competition is less.
yeah, maybe.
You've lost
Yeah,
5 out of your last 6, though, and certainly, okay, taking a look at what's left, guys. Notre Dame, very, very good team.
Mhm.
Stanford, hey, they're pretty good. Uh, I am not sure about Cal. I'm not sure about BC, but Clemson's fairly decent too. So, boy, this is just a killer slate to end the season. These 5 games here, but it's ACC. Should should we be that shocked, Case, about how the team just kind of uh, did a nosedive over the Atlantic and hit the water?
I mean, I think, and talked a little bit about this last time I was on, which feels like an eternity ago. Missed a lot of shows recently. I think that the early season was kind of fool's gold. If we look back at the articles and the conversations that we had running up to this season, Louisville's schedule was not favorable. Every or almost every team they were playing finished ahead of them in the RPI last season, including in non-conference. And that non-conference slate, where they were in the RPI and the teams that they were playing, right, were much more apt to be wildly changing. And so some of those teams obviously got worse year over year, and Louisville maybe got a little better. But that early slate kind of made it look like, oh, wow, Louisville is a lot better than we thought. And in retrospect, I don't necessarily think that was the case. And so then when you look at the conference slate and say, okay, you're not playing any of the teams that were only two, you're not playing any of the teams that finished behind you in RPI in conference this season. And that's a problem. And now they've only got one game left against a team that is behind them in the conference standings, and that's against Clemson. And behind is relative because they're only behind on one game worse overall record. They've got one fewer win than Louisville in non-conference. So yeah, it's tough. Um, you look at the losses so far. They've lost to North Carolina, top in the league, undefeated. They've lost to Virginia Tech, second in the league, 5-1-1. Lost to Duke, third at 5-0. Who else? Oh, Pitt. Pitt is the one where you look at it and you say, maybe we should have won that game. You certainly shouldn't have lost it 3-0. Pitt's just 2-2-1 in conference. They're 8-3-2 overall, and I think that's kind of similar to Louisville's 6-5-2, where it's like a head scratcher of who did you really play. But yeah, on 3 points with the ACC's ridiculous 6-team tournament. Louisville is technically not yet mathematically eliminated, but yeah.
There's still a fair amount of season to play if we're talking in those terms.
I think the overweight lady is walking up the steps and
One,
looking for the microphone. Okay.
4, 5. There's 5 games left for Louisville. If they won all 5 of those,
I mean, it's 15 points. That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
If they somehow manage to win all 5 of those, they would have the same number of points that North Carolina already has.
Yeah.
So that'd be tough. Especially when you look at the next game they're playing is against Notre Dame, who is undefeated in conference. They're 2-0-2. And is 13th in the country. 8-1-2 on the year. Welcome home, Cards. You've been away from Lynn Stadium for a while. Yeah, I don't see Louisville getting double-digit points. The way they've been playing, that's 2 wins and a draw to get to 10 points in these last 5 games. I don't see it. And I'm not trying to be overly negative. It's just
no, I think it's realistic. Yeah.
You're playing Notre Dame. So of the games remaining, Cal has 10 points already in conference. Stanford has 10 points already in conference. And Notre Dame, who I just mentioned, is behind them at 8, but hasn't lost a match in conference. And then you've got Boston College, who, I don't know, they're a weird team. They're 7-3-1 on the year, but they're 2-2-1 in conference. So very similar to Pitt, and then Clemson, and that's on the road on Halloween.
Yeah, you got to look at 4 goals in the last 6 outings. That's it. So obviously the offense would be a question mark right now. And I think one of the situations, we're not going to be able to go to the game today, and be that as it may, it's I don't know the wiseness of scheduling Notre Dame on a Saturday when you're playing football on the road.
That might not have been their choice.
I don't think they had any.
That's
I don't
a conference
think Karen
decision.
Ferguson days had any say in that.
Yeah.
But who would make such a stupid decision? I mean, okay, ACC.
What conference are we in?
Yeah, but yeah.
Why a Saturday?
Right. Yeah, that was my main focal point here. Is why are we playing on a Saturday? Although it's not a home football game, so there won't be the cluster on Floyd Street that there would normally be. But woof.
I mean, this is our second Saturday game. I don't know why we're playing Saturday matches in general, but
is it something in Notre Dame's contract where they're like, yeah, we only play soccer on Saturdays, not on Sunday? I don't know. Don't get it, but anyway, let's just be optimistic here at the end of this part of our talk about soccer and wish them the best and hope that they can get it turned around and again get some offense going out there, gang. 4 goals in 6 games, that's just, it's not the blueprint toward a winning season. I'll leave it at that. But we did have a fun event go on earlier this week as a capacity crowd packed the Galt House in their grand ballroom over on the East Tower over there for the WBB tip-off luncheon. That's right. Can you believe it, guys? It's already that time of year for that. Incredible. But a great crowd turned out as Really, the only disappointment in the whole day was there were only about 3 or 4 media representatives there. The rest of the tables were sold out, but they always set aside 2 tables for the media, and I had a total of 4 media representatives sitting there, and I'm counting Sonya as one too. So, uh, I liked a lot about that. It was good to see the fans enthusiastic despite the kind of questionable end to the season last year where we got knocked out by MTSU in the NCAA tournament. But the players were dressed to the nines, as they always are. Got to talk with a lot of friends that attend this event each year and came over and were talking to me about various things and programs and things going on in their lives and such. Gentlemen, it's always good to hear what Jeff Wallace's state of the address is. Also, when he gets up there and as it was pointed out many times in the actual luncheon, this is a very young team in many aspects. With let's face it, there's 8 freshmen on this basketball team,
Mhm.
but the ones that I spoke with were all very, very broad based and informative and seemed to know a lot about the program and seemed to be excited about the season, and they didn't have the freshman look in their eyes. I did miss Sam Purcell not being there. I used to have some legendary either pre or post game interviews with him at this event, but of course he's busy down in Mississippi doing something. I don't know what he's up to down there.
SEC land. Yeah.
Yeah, he grabbed a rebel flag and ran south of the Mason-Dixon line, boys. But he's down there doing that. It was good to see Jada Curry out there. She delivered the prayer before the meal. Did a great job with that. Olivia Cochran and is finally coming out of her shell. It took 5 years, but they finally got her talking a little bit. And you can't get Marissa Russell to shut up. So she's very, very informative and very comical at times too. She was fun. The meal, well, if you're going to this event for the food, don't waste your money. It's some kind of, I don't know where they got this breaded chicken, but they can take it back. They serve that with mashed potatoes and asparagus, and they gave you a salad too. Uh, and a nice dessert. The dessert was probably the highlight of the meal. And in tradition, as I as Howie Lindsay and I started years ago at these events, we would eat our dessert right after our salad. Why? Because it was there.
There's no point in eating the other stuff.
Yeah, you wanted to get the good stuff in your stomach. Because if you waited till the end of the meal, you might not have room for it. So you always got the dessert out of the way first. And I remember the look of horror we got by a certain media representative when we were doing that one year. Unfortunately, of course, Harry doesn't do much media related things toward the women's athletics at U of L anymore, being busy in the real estate business, and was not at the event earlier this week. But yeah, every time I dive into my dessert, Sonia says, "You're keeping that alive, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, look, yummy chocolate mousse." And gobbled it down greedily before the food even got there. About 500 total, I would say, just to guess at the table occupancy and number of tables there were. And we had a lot of fun during this thing because it's good to kind of see this fan base come together like this and be happy about something and joyous about something and glad to see everybody. And I was having a little difficulty in leaving and had to stop for a minute. And then Sonya decided she had to use the restroom. So we were actually one of the last ones, I think, to get out of that hallway that leads down to the elevators. So I was sitting there patiently in a chair waiting for her to get out of the restroom, and Jeff Walls came sprinting almost down the hallway. A man in a hurry. And he was saying, I got to get to practice, Paulie. Waved at me and smiled and went straight to the elevators. So
He had no intention of you catching him
he, well,
on his way out.
Yeah, there was no way he was going to stop and do a 5-minute impromptu with me. He was a man on a mission. And I think that he has been out doing a lot of other things lately, including his trip down to Greensboro. And, or no, to Charlotte, I'm sorry, for ACC Media Days. And so he hadn't been able to really be with the team all that much. And I think he wanted to just trying to get a handle on some of these freshmen and see exactly where they're going to play into it. But it's a fun event. I know in past years they've given us some very nice things as a media gift. This year they gave us a deck of cards.
Are they cool?
No, they're
Oh,
not. Unfortunately, they are not. They had cards for the Cards fans. And so, yeah. And I don't even have monthly poker games anymore, so they wouldn't even help me there.
I have an old deck of Louisville cards that I need to replace if you are looking for a home.
Okay. Yeah. Next time we get together, I'll throw them in my bag and bring them to you.
Eventually, I'll see you at a women's soccer game again, I think.
Oh, yeah. We'll run in somewhere, someplace. And in fact, yeah, I've got 2 extra ones. So, Jeff, if you want one too, let me know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what use I would have for those.
All right, and fine enough. It was a very, very good event, and it was nice to see the people actually getting excited about women's basketball and excited about what was coming up. And you kind of had to wonder how the bounce back would be after this team, quite frankly, kind of disappointed the last couple games out. Notre Dame knocked us out of the ACC tournament. And then all of a sudden you go to the NCAA. We looked at MTSU and said, yeah, they could be challenging, but we should be able to get by this squad. It didn't happen. But we'll see what happens. I know Waltz is excited about this bunch. So as his talks were, he said, we are definitely learning that this group loves to back each other up on anything. And I don't know what you guys' take is on this, but I think that's a very, very important thing for a team that is so basically brand new and young that they've got each other's back on just about anything that goes down the pike. Your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I think that's a good sign of a team gelling quickly. A team of a bunch of new faces. They're new to each other. They're going to be new to us too, but more importantly, new to each other and getting together and developing that bond and trust. I mean, the idea of a team backing each other up on the team can be taken too far. I've seen it happen in organizational dynamics, but by and large, I think it's a pretty good thing to get that support and help each other out like that.
I think what's going to be good for this team is that they're very unlikely to have TCU on the second line in their bracket next year.
Yeah.
Which it is undeniable that had something to do with, I think, the performance against MTSU last year. But yeah, having each other's back. They talked about it a lot last year, was needing to find personal accountability after a lot of the games where they didn't perform as well as they expected. I think they talked about trying to come together as a team. It was kind of a cobbled together team from a transfers perspective, and they never quite gelled. They talked a lot about personal accountability, and now having each other's backs, I think, is maybe a bit in reaction to that, and recognizing that last year we were in game 24, and in the post game they're still talking about how they're trying to learn each other and come together as a team, and maybe recognize that that was not necessarily true. And so, um, if they're coming together now and recognizing, we are one team, it's a bunch of freshmen, which personally I think a lot of teams, basketball and football both, will start to get back to that. Um, and field hockey might be doing that with their goalkeeper situation now, but developing that talent and using transfers to maybe fill some key holes rather than trying to team build on transfers, hopefully is a trend we're getting back towards. And this could be the start to that, and getting back to Jeff Wall's basketball. And if we have to deal with some freshman boneheaded errors early, um, and then we get to see that paying off towards the end of the year, and can look at 8 women on this team and say, wow, look at that great group of sophomores we'll have next year, plus the other rising team members. I think that'll be a lot better than the end of the year we got to last year, where you've got 6 people whose names you're just learning, and now you're having senior night and honoring them. So
Taking a look at what he has basically coming back, and then with all the talk of youth and such, I still think when you take a look at some of the returnees, you can put a starting lineup out there that isn't going to include a single freshman. And Paula, people say, Paula, you're crazy. No, you've got Olivia Cochran back. Certainly no freshman there. I think Jada Curry is one of your best candidates for guard, and she's certainly not a freshman. You got to put her back out there. I think you got to put my elf out there. You know, she's a very very strong player. She had a great run in Turkey. Walls was impressed with the way that she played, and so yes, she does need to be out there. Uh, you go to your fourth and fifth positions. I think Nyla Harris deserves a shot back out there again too. At 6'2" and a forward, she was a very very strong force last year for this basketball squad. And last but not least, you're getting a transfer in Jalea Williams, who is staying within conference. She's joining us from Miami, and she is a lockdown defender. And at 5'9", could be that second guard we need out there. Of course, as Wall said, I get asked about starters all the time. He said, "No, I'll respond to people. Do you want to know who I'm going to start or who I'm going to want to have out there with 2 minutes left in a close game? Which would you rather hear?" Point made. Again, you keep the good ones out there at the end. But I'm encouraged about this team, guys. I think the state of the Cardinal athletic abilities are good, but I also know that there are some bullies in the league this year. And as much as I hate to say it or think it, Notre Dame looks pretty well rocked. They really do, fellas.
Yep.
They look very, very good indeed.
it's no fair. They were supposed to go away.
We've wanted them to disappear for quite some time, and yet they keep coming back stronger. I wish they wouldn't, but what can you do? They're going to be Notre Dame. Uh, Moving on to other sports then, so we'll spend a lot of time on volleyball here in a bit, but let's talk a bit about field hockey. Our field hockey squad is what's the best way to describe it? It'll be in a pretty bad slump right now, honestly. If you take a look at what's going on with them, yes, they're playing in the ACC, and it seems like with every sport, we almost have to always Kind of put that out there as a caveat. But it's ACC competition. Well, we're on a 5-game losing streak, fellas. And, when you take a look at who the losses came to, I really don't have an excuse for any of them. North Carolina. Yeah, they're pretty good in field hockey. Number one in the nation. We played them to 2-1 at a Traeger, though. Only lost by one. But before that, I lost 1-0 in Virginia, which was tough. Went to Syracuse, lost 1-2. Not good. Columbus took them to overtime up in Columbus, but lost 3-4. And even going back to Boston College, where they dropped that one 1-0 at a Traeger. Um, Jeff, is there any tool in a plumber's kit to fix this leak?
I don't know. I think this may be we're seeing what this team is this year, and maybe not quite the caliber of team that we've come to expect from field hockey. Let's to take the long view. Let's hope it's a 1-year aberration, and we get back to being a more competitive team next year. I mean, we're not bad. Like, we're still flirting with being in the rankings and everything, and so but this is not the level we've come to expect from this team, and missing some offense, and I can again only hope that I think at this point starting to kind of look at next year for improvement. I don't see much change happening in this year.
A sad situation indeed. The Cards are on their way and have probably already arrived, I would assume, in Wake Forest for a Sunday match against the Demon Deacon case. Can we be really optimistic here and possibly think this might be a game where they turned it around?
I Louisville hasn't shown me anything this year that says they can't win out. I mean, they could still finish the year over 500 if they win the next 4 games. I don't know where the offense is. It's you look at some of the games. You've got a 3-goal game against American, 3 goals against Penn, 4 against Cornell, 4 against Ball State, 3 against Ohio State. So it's not like they're only able to put up goals against not good teams. But then they've only scored more than 1 goal in conference play one time. And it was against Stanford in the opening conference match of the season at home. Stanford's not very good. So I just don't. I don't know. I don't know where the offense is. The defense is certainly holding its own. Both Emily Young and Brandy Lynn Heinbaugh have had really good games in goal. And they're keeping the offense close, and they're getting rewarded with no goals against Boston College, 1 goal against Syracuse, no goals against Virginia, and 1 goal against North Carolina. I mean, if you're in goal or you're one of the backline players, you're like, what in the world is going on up there? Can you guys, in the midfield, maybe win the ball a few more times and then go that way? Stop coming this way. But like I said, they've shown flashes this season, and I'm not convinced that they're as bad as the record indicates. And that's not to say that I think this team could easily be undefeated, right? The matches they've lost are against very quality competition, and they're showing well against them. And some luck has gone their way to only lose by 1 goal in some of these games. But I still think they could turn it around, because turning it around just means finding wherever the offense is in the matches that it's missing. And you play Wake. I mean, you play Wake on the road, which will be difficult, and then Duke at home. And then I'm not particularly worried about Cal and UC Davis on the road. If they lose those games, then I will be viewing the entire season differently than I am currently.
And Justine has also kind of bounced around who she wants in goal, using M. Young in some occasions and using Brandolin handball in the other games. One thing about this squad, though, and it does kind of worry me just a little bit, is when you take a look at that, the back line that, of course, sets themselves up right in front of the goalkeeper. You've got freshman there and Emily Eden. Okay, she's played well enough to be there, I think, but it's just there is no youth experience there. Uh, Aubrey Lemba gets in a little bit, not too often. I think you have to take a look at the rest of the positions there in who plays in those backline spots and kind of wonder, how did we get this young?
You
Chloe,
know, that's the thing with college athletics, man. People graduate, they move on. It happens, and sometimes you have rebuilding years, and that I starting to feel like this is one for field hockey.
unfortunately, all the things are pointing to yes, it is going to be. I kind of wonder, you know, also, Sari, who was a goalkeeper in her playing days many moons ago and was one of the best in field hockey at the time she played, uh, has always kind of traditionally in past years found a goalkeeper to stick back there and say, okay, you're my goalkeeper and you're going to be my goalkeeper all year long. Why the sudden change around this year and saying, okay, you're going to play one game? Is it a practice thing? I'm trying to get a hold of the mindset of what's going on with her right now because defenses love to get very comfortable with a goalkeeper they're familiar with behind them.
Well, I alluded to it talking about basketball. And what I think is happening, because we've talked about this before, the last time that Louisville was developing a goalkeeper um, was kind of derailed by COVID. And since then, we've kind of seen a steady stream of graduate goalkeepers coming in. And just like a defense wants to get familiar with their goalie for the whole year, they'd like to do that year over year. And with Brandylin Heinbaugh, you've got a grad transfer goalkeeper who is doing a good job. But Emily Young, as a sophomore, is also doing very well in her matches. She started the last two. She had 11 saves and just 3 goals given up um, against 2 of the top teams in the country. And so I think you're seeing Brandylin Heinbaugh be a very good influence on Young and still being deserving of playing in these matches, but also getting Young some critical experience both in the goal and with her team, which, like you mentioned, has some freshmen and sophomores on that starting defensive line and in the rotation. And so this could be that Sowery is saying, I've been able to identify good goalkeepers because she has that she can bring in as transfers, but for the team, it's best to have some more consistency back there. And so to Heinbaugh's kind of detriment a little bit, she's making the decision, I think, to plan for the future and goal and develop a goalkeeper rather than keep streaming goalkeepers, grad transfer goalkeepers. And credit to Heinbaugh for, if that is the case, for being a willing participant in that arrangement and by all accounts from the outside looking like she's doing a good job of being a senior leader as a transfer.
So we certainly hope that that can get straightened out and solved, and also that this season can kind of take a turn, a turn from what it's been doing in the last 5 matches. Hopefully, we'll find out. The days, of course, get less and less, and I think if I read this correctly, I believe there are now 9 teams. Does that
That
sound familiar
is
to you guys?
what we discovered. Yes.
Yeah, because we know it's not that way in women's soccer, where you still got 6 teams in the playoff. Don't get me started. And volleyball, which does not have a playoff, but in field hockey, that is the case. So But worst case scenario, well, maybe we go in the seventh or eighth, but still make it. I don't see us missing the ACC field hockey tournament. But then again, I didn't see us losing five in a row either. So we'll see what happens.
Good morning.
So,
Oh wow!
Look what popped in out of the woods, huh?
Yeah, Katie ran off. She's got some work training today, so she just left. I'm like, I'll hop on real quick just for some quick, maybe some field hockey analysis before y'all switch to volleyball.
Yeah, and certainly that is what we were just discussing. So jump in
Yep.
and tell us what you know.
Yep. So field hockey is not taking every team for the ACC tournament. There's going to be one unlucky team out there, whoever finishes last of the 9. There was talk that they might just do a 7-team tournament, give the 1 seed a bye. I haven't heard anything confirmed on that. Obviously, Louisville's not in a great position either way, but still beating Stanford and having that win over winless Stanford gives them a slight edge.
It's an 18 playoff. They've posted the bracket at this point.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, as of right now, it looks like Stanford's the one that won't make it. It's just a young team. You lost a lot of players that graduated last year. With the COVID eligibility, those fifth-year players, especially midfield and defense, you're looking at a ton of freshmen and sophomores out there playing right now. Case kind of indicated that already, especially with Emily Young, seen more time in goal. I think that's to help establish for the future more than anything. But just a lot of players who aren't familiar with playing with each other. A lot of them that are true freshmen, like they're in defense backfield. Emily Eaton, true freshman. I mean, it just takes time to get accustomed to the collegiate pace, especially when you're playing ranked team after ranked team. Good news is you're only losing by 1 in each of these, so it's still competitive. You're not getting blown out. So that's, you got to take the plus with that. I mean, if they're losing by 2, 3, 4 goals every match, big concern. But when you're at least staying competitive, you ran number 1 North Carolina down to the wire with about 5 minutes left in the final quarter. It's still not bad. So, I mean, I think it's just a rebuilding and developing year more than anything.
You guys want to know how weak Stanford's non-conference schedule was? Stanford is 0-5 in the ACC. They have scored 1 goal and given up 16. But in overall, they're 5-6. So they finished 5-1 in non-conference. They scored 18 goals and have given up 19. So they outscored non-conference opponents 17-3 and have been outscored in conference 1-16. That's not good.
Are you saying there's a ghost of a chance we might be able to beat them, Case?
I think we're going to finish ahead of Stanford. And back to my earlier point about I think Louisville has a decent chance to finish this season on a 4-game winning streak. They're playing Wake, who is 0-3 in conference. And hey, it's kind of interesting because Wake, they've only given up 7 goals in conference. They've scored 1. So they're a little weird. They're 4-7 on the year. Yeah, who knows what's going on with Wake? But Cal is also below them, 0-4 in conference, and then Duke is at 4-1 and 8-4 on the season. Duke is still Duke. They're very good. They've scored 10 goals.
Who Duke is? There's no doubt about that.
Right.
Yeah,
But you do get them at home.
I don't think Cal is any walk in the park, though. I mean, they've dominated the Pac-12, which isn't really saying much, but I think they've still been competitive in RPI top 40 for the last several years. So it's not like we're playing a bunny team.
Sure. They won 6 non-conference games by a total of 17-4. And they've been outscored 4-15 in conference. They're the same as Stanford. They're maybe a little bit better than Stanford. Like I said, they should be able to win that game. And like if they don't win that game or beat UC Davis, then I have a very different view of this season as a whole. But looking at that, it should be a win. So
now I do agree they should win. Just playing at Cal is a little bit tougher versus playing at home.
It'll be nice though. It'll be a lot nicer than here at that time of year.
Yeah, possibly so. Yeah,
they'll have the better weather.
We hope for that. Of course, we never know what's going to happen out of the Pacific Ocean. But let's hope that it's true. Let's take it on in, I guess. And Jared, you can stick around a little bit because you were able to watch a little bit of the volleyball, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I had it on my phone at softball, and I got home to finish the rest. And Jeff, did you make that trip, or did you not battle
No.
the weather?
No, I'm here in Louisville.
We're still going to lean on him, though, to talk about this 5-setter against Florida State down in
Ugh.
Tallahassee and Tully Gym. I mean, my gracious.
I think Jeff was like me and sweating after that first set, thinking, did the
I was
Louisville
don't-
team that
he
played
was the
Penn
whole
State
match.
show up?
I don't think he wants to skip the dominating last weekend.
Okay,
I
well,
think he
yeah.
wants to.
Yeah, I think you do have to get still shout out last weekend and the 2-3-0 victories.
Yeah, well, we can cover that briefly, sir. Your impressions on those?
All you, Jeff.
Yeah, we talked about one of them last weekend, the Clemson match, right? And then the Sunday Georgia Tech match was, I think, surprisingly lopsided for the most part. It's, other than the last set, our blocking was there, and when we block well, we play well. Blocking and passing are the two keys, I think, to Louisville's game. And the block was there against Georgia Tech, and really kind of took them to town, even more so than I think the scores would generally recognize. Like I said, other than that third set, that 27-25 third set was a tight one, but 25-20, 25-16 in the first two sets was definitely was Louisville's game in that one. I was pleasantly surprised to see how focused and on point the team was when they came out to play that match.
Anytime that you can, of course, sweep an opponent like that. And
Yeah.
we've had some battles with Georgia Tech in the past. So
And Georgia Tech's a good team. I mean, they were what, ranked 19th when we played them. I don't know what happened with them on Monday, but they're a good team. They are coached well. They have a lot of really good, talented players. They still have one of the killer bees there, like we talked about. Otene out of New Zealand is a very fine player as well. We have her for another year that we're going to be seeing her. But they're a good team, and it's a good, solid win for us to add to the resume that this team already has. It's already pretty darn impressive.
One of the things that I thought that Louisville did really well, and I'm sure it's something they talk about in scheme, and it's probably something that's in the scouting report every week. But when the opponent has one of their best servers at the line, you want to side out as quickly as possible. And Louisville was able to get the side out when Bertolino was serving in most of the cases, and I think that was very
That
helpful.
helps a lot. Yes, absolutely.
Because her service is wicked.
They baited Bertolino a lot. They were trying to prevent her from hitting towards Elena Scott, and then as soon as she went to serve, Elena Scott started creeping, usually towards the realm of either where DeBeer or Glock was standing.
Yeah.
Florida State said to Louisville, we're 3-1, and guess what? We're going to give you guys a little bit of a competition down here in Tully Gym.
Yeah.
And they certainly came out gangbusters, Jeff. But the Cards, credit to them and the type of team that they are. They took some early battering in the first couple rounds of this heavyweight fight, but ended up getting the decision. Very proud of Anna DeBeer, as I like to say, bring on DeBeer. And we brought her on, and she definitely was worth the wait.
She definitely played well in this match. It may have been the most consistent player in the match for the Cards. Certainly, there was a little bit of inconsistency elsewhere on the floor. I thought Nailis Cabello did a good job, consistency when she was in. Of course, that splitting that 6-2, or as I call it, the 6-3 offense. That she only gets to.
Who's the three? Elena Scott.
Elena Scott, of course. So yeah, but Nails only gets to play half the rotation for the month, roughly, but when she was in there, she was very consistent and played solidly last night. And again, that's no knock on Ellie Glock. She also played quite well, but Nay has been a little bit inconsistent as a freshman, getting her feet wet and getting into the speed of the game and all that. But I thought she played really well last night. Anna DeBeer was solid and consistent, played well. And again, blocking, you can see in this team when our blocking wasn't working, and in the first and fourth sets, which is when our block kind of just disappeared for a little bit. Those are the ones that Florida State won. They were able to control the match and win the game, win those individual sets. In the other sets, the second, third, and fifth, when our blocking really came on strong and kept control of the net, that's when UofL won. So it just really shows how much this team goes the way the blocking does. Florida State outblocked UofL in the first set and just took us to task. And, it was obvious at that point. Got to get our block going. And if we do, we should be okay. And we were.
And I'll ask you, Jared, on this one. You saw that first set score 16-25 in favor of Florida State. How worried were you at that point in time?
Quite a bit. I thought that the Louisville team that showed up against Penn State and Nebraska decided to come back again. A lot of unforced attack errors, some service errors that didn't need to be there. Seemed mental in that first set, and then they regrouped, and I'm sure there were some things said in the huddle, and then they just got back to clicking and working things out. And when they can stay mentally focused, this team is dangerous.
I would agree with that 100% if they can keep their eyes on the prize. I was also kind of laughing, chuckling on the side about these announcers who called this game. I'm assuming this is the regular Florida State crew that calls the game. Not for sure on that, but it kind of seemed like in their words and actions and stuff it was. But they kept talking about Louisville is a team that is used to playing in their big center down on the river down there,
Yeah.
and it was as if they had no idea that we go to the LNFCU and play about half our matches, right? Come on,
More than
gang.
half, yeah.
Yeah, but they kept on saying, and it totally Jim is affecting the Cards because they're not used to playing in a small environment like this. And I'm thinking to myself, bullshit. Anyway, Charity Looper, Jeff. Once again, you turn around and boom, there she is. She's something else, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She brings so much power for someone who is just not that big, right? I mean, first of all, she's only 5'9", and we talked about that. Jumps, everybody says jump through the gym, which is very true. She's also just not a very just big, like imposing sort of size sort of player, and she gets so much power out of it. She was one of the players that I thought was a little inconsistent last night, but had some great plays, did a lot of contribution to the win. But we need her to be consistent for a deep run into the tournament. And we know she's got the ability. We just need to see it consistently.
They were billing this one also as the Anna versus Audrey matchup. And Audrey, to give them, credit too, she had 22 kills against Louisville and also had 3 aces serving. So, but ended up losing the battle of the two, I guess, because the Cards won the actual match. But
and DeBeer had 23 kills.
Yeah, and 23 kills as well. But they were, I think, were they co-players of the year last year in the ACC, Jeff? Was I right about that?
Yep.
And they certainly too look like the two prime candidates to repeat in that title again this year. Would you say?
Maybe, yeah. Debo had a little bit of a kind of a slow start to the season. She had a little bit of a slump early, and that may give her a little bit of a challenge in that coming on. But late in the season, she's certainly coming on. And awards like that tend to look towards the recent, which would be late in the season versus the early. So, I think it's a very good possibility. I think there's several candidates. I would say Sophia Maldonado Diaz does not get the attention she deserves. And I think maybe somewhat she kind of likes it that way. She's a pretty reserved person, so I think she likes not being in the spotlight so much. But between Anna DeBeer, potentially Maldonado Diaz, and then Charity Looper, I think they would all be in the running for that discussion from the Louisville team.
Certainly, the Cards do have a lot of weapons, Jared. One thing that impressed me about this one as well too is when the Cards were basically up against it, down one set and going into the next set, they kind of came out in the second set and said, you know what, we're not going to roll over and play dead to you. This thing was tied up at 8-8 early on in the set, and then they ran off 6 straight points to go up 16-10. I guess that maybe that kind of showed Jared the Seminoles that, hey, boy, I think they came here to give us a game. What do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's what you should expect out of a veteran, experienced Louisville team. You got to look at how many players are on this starting or regular rotation that are 4th or 5th year players at this point. And if they decided to roll over and play dead, I'd have a lot more concern about the maturity of the team. But no, the way they bounced back and responded was exactly what you want to see out of this Louisville team. You're playing in a hostile environment. I thought Florida State did a great job with the home crowd, having the band right on top of the players. And it's one of the benefits of playing in those types of arenas. Same with us at L&N. But yeah, I mean, Louisville did exactly what they needed to do to respond in a second set.
Did it surprise any of you guys that they actually came back and beat the Cards in the 4th set when it looked like the tide had turned in Louisville's favor?
Not tremendously. I think I felt like most of the momentum was on the Card side towards the end of the 3rd set. So I kind of thought that might come out and continue. But that momentum can shift in volleyball. It's definitely a sport of momentum. So I'm not shocked that it happened. I wish it wouldn't have. It would have been nice to see the team kind of dig down and stop that before it let them take another set away. But no, I'm not terribly shocked. Florida State's a very good team. They're going to step up and do well at times.
And don't forget, they had won 17 straight matches in Tully.
Yeah.
They'd not lost since the beginning of November last year against, coincidentally, Georgia Tech. And so, it's a tough place to play. It's a tough place to win if you're the opponent. And Louisville has shown a propensity to win there because they also won there last year. And it's just, it's good to see that victory come through. And the resiliency that they showed both in the second sets and in the second and the 5th set. The way they came out in the second set and responded immediately was kind of what you expected to see against Penn State and Nebraska that just didn't materialize. And I think early on after the Penn State match, we're like, okay, now they've gotten that out of their system. If they lose the first set, they're going to be able to react. And then against Nebraska, they did the same thing. And people scratched their heads a little bit. And so for them to come out, lose pretty handedly in the first set on the road against Florida State and then react the way that they did is very encouraging to me.
Miami Sunday, down in Miami. They are a team that is receiving votes, but not in the top 25. What say you about the Canes here, fellas? Just quickly, Jared, is this one that we have to worry about as much as we did FSU?
Maybe not as much, but still, I think you need to worry and focus on it quite a bit. Once again, you're playing on the road. Miami's a sneaky team. They're getting overshadowed by a lot of your big dogs in the ACC right now. They're not just going to roll over and play dead either. They're running on some extra motion after the hurricane. You never really know. But that's a team that they're fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament too. And a win against Louisville would certainly put them in that position.
Would be a signature win for them. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's any walk in the park at all for Louisville.
Yeah, they're no slouch this year. I think we've looked at Miami in the past and said, okay, we should probably win that game pretty easily, and then Miami's taken a set or two off of us. And you look at them this season, and you look at the schedule and say, well, or you look at the record, I should say. They're 2-3 in conference, and the head scratcher is last weekend's. Well, the head scratcher might be last weekend. They swept Virginia Tech and then got swept by Virginia, which, yeah, okay, sure. But their other two conference losses are against Florida State. They've already played them the two times they'll play them this season, once at home, once on the road, which I think with those two happens pretty frequently. They get those matches out of the way in quick succession. But we just saw how good Florida State can be, and so it's not terribly surprising that Miami lost to them two times. Last night they beat Notre Dame in 5, which Notre Dame is not the boogeyman that they used to be, but they're still not a terrible team. And so outside of that, Miami's, I think, 11-5 on the year. So, or maybe not that many games, but they're doing decently in the non-conference. And so you can't take this match lightly, or it could be like a couple of years ago when we've dropped some not great matches on the road.
And to kind of, I guess, before we get into final thoughts here, throw the trivia question: where are the Cards 1-0 lifetime?
Oh, what team? You're saying what team?
What venue?
Venue is.
Oh.
Is this is the hint that we're playing at Florida State, or that we're playing at Miami tomorrow?
We've played there a bunch of times, unless they're playing at a different
venue than they
normally do. Yeah.
I mean, they're undefeated at Freedom Hall.
Yeah.
That's
1-0.
That's not 1-0.
That's 2-0.
Right.
Yeah.
Would it take you guys over to Sacred Heart High School?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
against Notre Dame.
When we had
Sure.
to move the match over there to play
Yeah,
Notre Dame because
weather,
of electrical difficulties. So anyway, Paulie wins the quiz. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go to final thoughts then. Jared, start us out, man. What's on your mind? Final thoughts.
Certainly wishing my wife Katie a happy birthday, and unfortunate
Indeed.
she's having to do some work on her birthday, but we'll go out and to dinner and celebrate tonight. But yeah, it's been fun watching volleyball, especially this fall so far. Good team, and I think women's soccer and field hockey have both just shown bright spots. But I think there's a lot more youth on those teams, and I think they're just developing a lot more. But it's still been fun to watch, and I'm still going to keep going out the rest of the season.
Certainly, indeed, and when I can, I will. Case, what do you got for me on final thoughts?
Well, I'm going to copy Jared with his final thought, and I wish my wife a happy birthday. It was earlier this week, so will also be the reason that I missed the soccer game tonight. Headed out for dinner, but similarly to Jared as well, this soccer team, they've had ups and downs. They've been fairly exciting to watch in their matches at home, and unfortunate that I'll miss a couple more of the matches, the home matches they've got remaining. But they're fun. They deserve, just like all of Louisville's, all the teams we cover, deserve the support, and they put on a good show. Both the team and the athletic department that puts the events together. Encourage everybody, make sure you get out there. There's not much that's better really than the late September and the October outdoor matches, just because of how pleasant the weather is. You don't have to stare at the sun because well, tonight you will because the match starts at 5, but the sun goes down a little earlier, and you just get like a nice crisp fall outdoor game, and it's very nostalgic. But it's a great time.
Certainly would be one that I would love to attend tonight, but unfortunately won't be able to get out there to that one due to a longtime friend of mine is having his 50th wedding anniversary, and has decided that he was going to combine it with the football game on big screen at a country club. So should be fun. Let's hope everybody's awake by halftime, right? What do you got for me on final thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what you all finished off with Miami. They are. Let's not take this one for granted. First of all, they're a pretty good team this year. But what I've learned about Miami was over the years was even if they're not a good team, they have a tendency to jump up and surprise people and kind of punch some big teams in the nose. So definitely don't take this one for granted. Come out, play a good game, and let's be prepared for quality opponent here tomorrow because it's almost something going to come out and happen. And then looking forward, I'm going to be interested to see Notre Dame because it sounds like they're actually pretty decent this year, which has been a change from the past few years anyway. So I'll be interested to see how they do.
Maybe we can get that one moved to Sacred Heart, Jeff. Let's see what we can do about that.
Well, it's home and home in the same week. It's Wednesday and Saturday, so
Yeah.
in that week. So
Hey,
it's interesting.
We'll see what happens against always a good rivalry against the Irish in any sport we take them in.
Yeah,
And so
it's a few weeks away still. But look,
Yeah.
I'm just calling that one out. Going, I think it'll be interesting. We got to play Pitt first, so it's
yeah, that's the very scary one.
yeah,
With Pitt, whatever. Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a monster of a team this year, man.
Yes, have they even lost a set?
They did. Boston College took a set off of them. It was interesting until
Oh
last.
well.
Well, no, but
sweep,
so the
sweep incoming for Louisville if Boston College took a set
yeah.
off. Of
So
them.
it was interesting. There were 4 teams that were undefeated in the ACC conference. It was us, North Carolina, Pitt, and I don't remember who else. But
Was it BC? Because that'd be funny.
no, it wasn't. But all 3 of the other undefeated teams had lost a set in conference, and all of those 3 sets that those teams had lost had been to Boston College.
That's
Yeah,
quite odd.
I mean, because otherwise Boston College was not that great, but yeah, they were the ones that reached up and took a set off each of those teams.
They will take a wild set off of you.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you mentioned the Wednesday Saturday, Louisville versus Notre Dame, and I think you mentioned this in our text. Pitt is currently doing the Wednesday Saturday travel partner.
yes, they're in
week.
they're
They're-
in Dallas today. They'll play
Yeah.
SMU tonight.
Yep, after playing SMU earlier this week.
Yeah.
And sweeping them. So we'll see if SMU can take the second set of the season off of
Yeah,
Pitt or not. It's funny for them to have started the season this way, with no lost sets until that Boston College one, and still only the single lost set, because they opened the season with an exhibition at Michigan that went 5 sets.
yeah, and Michigan's not that great.
You know what? I wonder if it was. I wonder if they played 3 and Pitt swept, and because it was an exhibition, they just
I
kept
just
playing.
played 2 more. Yeah, I don't know. It could
And
be.
Pitt rotated the side completely. And
Yeah,
A very, very scary team in Pitt volleyball, kids.
Yeah.
Just be careful when walking down that sidewalk. You could very well slip and fall down. But, final thoughts out of me? Nothing too major, earth breaking, or anything here at all. I am kind of looking forward to basketball season. I'll be quite honest with you. And my thoughts have been kind of preoccupied with that the past couple of days, looking at some of these freshmen in more depth to kind of get an idea of what they might be able to bring to the program. Admittedly, we all basically kind of have a sport here at the Cardinal couple that we do like to kind of maybe preference over the other sports that we love in the women's athletic realm. You can certainly think you can look at Case being a huge women's soccer fan. Jeff, of course, volleyball, no doubts on his. Uh, I'm beginning to think on you, Jared. It might be softball.
Without a doubt.
I know you love being out there for the games. You followed the team closely. What a wonderful coach in Holly. Mine, of course, being basketball. I love the game. Love the coach. Love the team. Love the alumni that I still stay in touch with. It's just that is my number one. I guess the one we have to determine is who is Daryl's.
Hers is also softball, I think.
Like
Could be basketball.
She hasn't followed softball as much recently, but
Could be
more
basketball.
basketball.
Yeah.
Although she's trying to follow more golf too, so
Yeah. Gonna get her set up with Kelly Young for an interview down the road.
She's going to see if she can find some eligibility, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. I
She's
mean,
gonna try out.
she's getting lessons from Peyton Siva. That can't be bad, right? But in any event, if you want to say that Cardinal couple is solidly aligned in one sport over the others, nay, I say to you, dear listener, because we all have diverse interests. We love all the sports, but each of us have our own little favorite. And that's what makes it so much fun, because when they're in season, we can turn to one. And all we got to do is get somebody on the broadcast now that's a huge lacrosse fan. Okay. I don't know. Suggestions, send them to me via cardinalcouple@twc.com. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. Let's go Cards and all the sports remaining, and everybody will catch you next week unless you know something I don't. Bye-bye.